Hello, my name is Sai, and my topic is racism. My claim is racism has been decreasing. To start off, in the 18th century, major instances of racism took place, including the colonial treatment of Native Americans and African slaves. Native Americans were often forced out of their land, slaves were often mistreated and taken from their homes. 19th century, the 19th century was a step forward. Slavery was officially abolished in 1865 through the Act of the 13th Amendment. Throughout the 19th century, African Americans were given more rights, such as the 14th Amendment, which granted citizenship for anyone born within the United States, including African Americans. The 15th Amendment also granted African American males the right to vote. Another significant development is that in the 1800s, the first major wave of immigration happened. More than 12 million immigrants entered into the United States through the Ellis Island. The Irish accounted for a third of all immigrants, and some 5 million immigrants came from Germany. The United States was starting to be known as the land of opportunities as more and more immigrated. However, many Americans started to discriminate immigrants. This is exemplified by the Chinese Exclusion Act, which banned Chinese laborers from entering. Another example is in the 1850s, where a political group built a campaign on preventing the Irish from entering the U.S. And another example is the rise of violence against Mexicans when the U.S. annexed part of Mexico. 20th century. During the 20th century, the two world wars took place. Especially World War II had a significant negative impact on racism in the States. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, leading to the general public of America developing an intense hatred of Japanese American immigrants. Japanese immigrants were forced to live in internment camps. However, 1952, the McCartan-Walker Act put an end to the exclusion of Asian immigrants, including Chinese and Japanese immigrants. In 1965, the Immigration and Nationality Act ended the Immigration Act of 1917, which limited the number of immigrants entering the U.S. Besides immigration, racial tensions between African Americans and white in the U.S. were at all-time high in this era. In the South, the Civil Rights Movement was in full force, with many African Americans' rights being limited. African Americans gained many of the rights they lacked after the Civil Rights Movement, but many Southern whites still viewed the situation bitterly. 21st century. On September 11, 2001, Arabic terrorists took control of passenger planes and crashed into the World Trade Center. The U.S. public entered another period of dangerous racism. Since this time, their anger directed at the Muslim Americans. On November 4th, 2008 was when the first ever African American president was elected. This can be viewed as a step forward to equal rights, which can put an end to racism. As of today, we can still see racism through the ban of some Muslim countries such as Iran, Libya, Syria, Yemen, and Somalia, and also some cases of police brutality against people of colored skin. Although America has been struggling with racism for a long time, it is getting a little better since America is trying to give every person the same rights. Thank you for listening to my presentation on racism.